We come together, we come together, we come together in the name of love. We come together, yes, we come together, we come together in the name of love. From every walk of life, every creed, every color, in friendship we all unite and bless the God in each other. We come together, we come together, we come together in the name of love, in the name of love. We are all in this together, together right now. Let's try and make it better for each other somehow. No one should go hungry, and everyone should feel loved. We're all in this together, every one of us. We're all in this together, every one of us. We're all in this together, every one of us. Together we make a difference. Share a little every day. Together we face tomorrow. Together we're gonna find a way. Together I know we're gonna keep the promise that we've already made, to love and trust each other with all we do and say. When we're together, I know we can. Together, together, together. There's so much power in the word and power in the feeling. Together, together. Together I know we can. Together we watch the river rolling to the sea. Together we can feel that sunrise illuminating you and me. Together I know we're gonna climb the mountain. We're gonna touch the sky, and we're gonna keep climbing toward that rainbow up where the eagles fly. When we're together, I know we can. Together, together. When we're together, when we're together, I know we can. We're all in this together. When we're together, I know we can. In the name of love.
Now I'm going to invite you to walk with me into that prayer zone where we have this glorious Sunday, this glorious day, where we have that open desire to live long and prosper, where we know that each of us already prospers in every way imaginable. The one perfect life that is God expresses as each and every person within the sound of my voice. And then more. All that this divine life is, each and every one within the sound of my voice is perfect, whole, and complete in form and substance. We prosper with perfect health. We prosper with remarkable loving relationships. We prosper with meaningful work in the world to make it a better place. We prosper with unlimited creative expression, each with their own unique gifts as expressions of that divine life. And finally, we have material prosperity and abundance and blessings that allow us to move freely in the world. And I know that everything that takes place here today will be absolutely perfect. I give thanks for each and every soul that's come together to make this service possible. For our musician, Karen Karsh. For our technological wizard, Travis Tucker. I'm so blessed to have our practitioners here. Our hospitality team, Debbie and Lois. We're grateful for Marty who bought these flowers. We're very grateful for Reverend Steve who has come and through whom Spirit will speak to let us know how to continue to live long and prosper. We're so grateful for all of our visitors here. We're so grateful for our regular members who are here. We're so grateful for everybody that tunes in to listen week to week to week. And I give thanks for each and every one of you. And release these words in the divine law where they are already acted upon by the divine mind. All of our good is here right now. I let these things go. I let them be. Together we affirm. And so it is. Our first words of inspiration this week come from Mr. Eric Butterworth. Faith required to demonstrate prosperity is not simply a pious pronouncement. Faith is expectancy. You do not receive what you want. You do not receive what you pray for. Not even what you say. You have faith in Him. You always receive what you actually expect. From John Roger. I am attached to my history of limitations, which weighs down the present. I have lost a war even if I win the battle. If I present myself and my point of view in loving with no attachment to the outcome, I have won before any battle has ever started. From our founder, the Honorable Dr. Ernest Holmes. The universal mind contains all knowledge. It is the potential ultimate of all things, period to it. All things are possible. Period to us, as much as possible, we can conceive according to the law.
Happy Sunday, New Dawn. It's good to see everyone today. We are extra blessed. Not only do we have the brilliant Reverend Steve Kindsfather and his beautiful wife, Terry, we also have a visiting minister today. This is Reverend Chris from Cape Coral, Florida.
Ooh.
Say hello after service, get to know him, love up on him a bit. Maybe he'll come back and share his brilliance at one point with us. That would be wonderful. You're welcome. Okay, I got to introduce Reverend Steve the second Sunday after Rev Jen left in March. That's how long it's been since he was here, because he
Wow.
was scheduled to be here the day we had to call off service for the other church's rummage sale. And him and Terry have been out scuba diving and traveling and walking labyrinths, praying for the ocean. And they're just busy, busy people. So this is the first time we've been able to get him back here. I promise we won't wait this long again. Reverend Steve is a resident of Golden, Colorado, and a third-generation Colorado native. Steve was born into the science mind teachings, as his parents were 2 of the 14 founding members of Mile High Church. So he has this in his DNA. It's just there. He served as a practitioner for, this says 12 years, but I imagine it's 13 by now, correct? And is currently the senior minister of Vessels of Spirit, a CSL focus ministry. Steve has done a lot of amazing things in his life. He started in construction and carpentry, and he taught that skill to young people in the juvenile corrections facilities. He also then, after the correctional facility, went on to teach construction skills to high school and college students, where every year he built a home somewhere in the Denver metro area, over 20 homes in Denver, teaching young kids the trade. But now he has a new endeavor. Steve and Terry have been through a lot of vetting and some serious training. And now Steve and Terry are acting as Santa and Mrs. Claus for this year. So I know Steve has a picture in here for you later. I can't think of a better person to play Santa Claus, can you? And he's absolutely brilliant as a minister with such a giant heart. So, welcome, Reverend Steve.
Wow, wonderful to be here. Thank you for those kind words. I think most all of it was true. Denise, thank you for the introduction, and Karen for the music. You always play from the heart, and it seems appropriate. And Russell, your words were resonating with me. I just wanted to keep basking in your love. And so the togetherness that you sang about, thank you for letting me be part of that togetherness here today. I'm glad to be back. Same beautiful faces. You haven't aged at all. Can you hear okay? Yeah. And keeping with the topic of the month, my talk for today addresses prosperity. There's 3 components I feel that are keys to living a prosperous life. And one of those keys is to live our life on purpose, to answer our unique divine calling. My latest personal calling, as Denise said, is to be Miss Santa Claus with my wife Terry, and we're about to experience our first holiday season as Santa and Mrs. Claus. This was never an intention of mine or a goal, but when COVID set in and the isolation turned out to be longer than the 2 weeks that they were predicting, I thought, well, if I'm going to live like a hermit, I might as well look like one. So I started growing out my hair and my beard. And I started growing my hair, and it kept growing, and I just kept on growing. And the hermit look that was kind of in that ministry, my beard was shorter, morphed into being Santa. And let's see if you think we can do it. Cool. We all have many callings in our lives. Answering them is a way of being who we were meant to be. That usually is connected to key number 2, which is giving our unique gifts. Mrs. Claus and I are about to find out what it's like to give our gifts as Santa and Mrs. Claus. We're also going to find out how prosperous it might be as we make various appearances as Santa and Mrs. Claus. And how I got trained to do this is a unique story in and of itself. And it's not training to be Santa, it is being Santa Claus. And how it evolved. Just know for now during this talk that it's a calling that was given to me under unique circumstances, and I answered that call. So as Terry and I fly our Santa sleigh for our first season, I found it appropriate to quote Oprah Winfrey. Forget the fast lane if you really want to fly. Harness your power to your passion. Honor your calling. Everyone has one. Trust your heart, and success will come to you. That just was perfect for what I'm saying today. I like to quote people when they say what I wanted to say in a more eloquent way or more perfectly. And I think we could all agree that Oprah knows a thing or two about prosperity and success, being the billionaire that she is. So when I was first invited to speak here again, or for the second time, at this beautiful, affluent congregation, I gladly accepted, and when Denise informed me that the topic would be on prosperity, immediately what popped into my mind was live long and prosper. I had that image of Mr. Spock from Star Trek doing the Vulcan hand sign, live long and prosper. That just popped into my head. And I thought, well, that might be a good title for the talk. But I also believe that my talk should remind us of the science of mind principles and incorporate that as well. So when I'm preparing a talk, I often go to the dictionary for my message or whatever the key words are in the message I'm going to give and how they relate to my particular talk for that day. So my things are shared, my messages are shared in many ways, but I think it's good to go to the dictionary and see what prosperity says. And I actually did go online and look it up, but I'm not surprised that a lot of you, when I said dictionary, you know what that is. The younger people just Google everything. And I did go to Wikipedia, and when I entered prosperity, it says noun, a noun, the condition of being prosperous, the state of being prosperous, advance, or gain in anything good or desirable. Successful progress in any business or enterprise. So I read that word. Attainment of the object desired, good fortune, success, commercial prosperity, or national prosperity. The condition of being prosperous or having good fortune. So after reading that Wikipedia definition and the part about successful progress in any business or enterprise, again, the Star Trek thing came up for me. I thought immediately of the U.S. Starship, United Starship Enterprise, USS Enterprise, and it convinced me to make my talk title be Live Long and Prosper. Who among you are my fellow Trekkies? Do we have Trekkies here? Oh, yay. This side's got a little. That's cool, though. So note those that had their hands up. Should I make a Star Trek reference throughout my talk and you don't recognize it or understand it, just ask for clarification from one of those that just had their hands up. And I want you to know, fellow Trekkies, that you just came out. You're no longer closet Trekkies. And by rights, I'm not using any copyrighted material on Star Trek. They guard that highly, but wonderful images. Those of you that are familiar with it, some of those things I wanted to share, so just imagine them in your mind. I won't use copyrighted material or images, but I must give proper credit to Gene Roddenberry. He was the creator and the producer of the Star Trek television series. And believe it or not, the TV series first ran for three seasons, but it began in 1966. And yet how strongly it is still in, the movies have come since then, but I still have a deep held respect for Mr. Spock, the Vulcan crew member of the Starship Enterprise. And my wife Terry has some books that we were looking at and just getting ideas, and this is one that really came to me. And the back cover, I just was reading it, and it seemed appropriate for me to share this with you now. If I am not Spock, who is? For years now, Leonard Nimoy has lived as an extraterrestrial who occupied his body, wore his face, used his voice. Only he can know what it means and feels like to be Mr. Spock, the Vulcan officer of the Starship Enterprise. I am not Spock reveals what it was like to be so identified with your role that it becomes a part of you. Spock is the most intriguing character on Star Trek for many reasons. Leonard Nimoy tells of his reactions to the many aspects of Spock, the struggle within himself, and the final acceptance of the mixed blessings the alien brought to him. I Am Not Spock is a complete portrait of an actor and how he uses his own skill and experience to create a role. It is a book in which you can come to know the man, the actor, and the formidable alien, Spock. So he had quite a bit of dilemma with being that character and being himself, and how the two merged, and which was he actually being at any given time. And then he has a follow-up book called I Am Spock. So you Trekkies may want to look into that a little bit more. But what I love is the fact that each episode of Star Trek, whether it's the TV or the movie, it addresses human morals and ethics. The Star Trek family of characters have strong personalities, as some of you know. They demonstrate their own core beliefs that we all have. And Spock is not one that shows compassion or empathy, but he is always logical. I too feel that it is logical that prosperity finds us when we find our passion, our true calling. I think prosperity finds us when we find our true calling. And when we successfully live from that passion and calling. That's the second part of it. Let's see if I can go again here. Passion without purpose leads to frustration. Purpose without passion leads to procrastination. But passion with purpose leads to success. That's Valerie J. Lewis Coleman. So when we find our true calling as human beings having a spiritual experience, I think then we become spiritual beings having human experiences. And answering our true calling and individual callings allows us to be our best, to share our gifts that were implanted in us. And I believe that our individual gifts of who we are here to be were implanted in us before our human birth. Some of you have connected with that, know what you were in a previous life, or there's various phases of that, but our gifts are ours alone. And there's no doubt that you are on this planet right here, right now, for this reason. When you were born, it was with absolute purpose from the divine. And I think we should all bask in that and remember that each day, each step of our lives. And life is so much easier when we follow our purpose. Our purpose in life is ever changing. We need to remember that too. There are so many things I know that I have done. They were callings at one time, but they are no longer mine to do. Building those houses that I did, it was such a passion, and so many people I touched and gave them those skills and the pride. But that's no longer mine to do, build those houses. I watched those that were high school students or now have their own children and living and working in the trades, etc. But being Santa revealed itself to me as a calling just less than a year ago, and it was definitely a calling. And I chose to answer the call for now. We'll see how long I do Santa Claus. When we're not willing to change or evolve our callings, or I think we limit our gifts. When asked to do something outside of our comfort zone, I think some of us would respond by saying, "Damn it, Jim, I'm a doctor, not an engineer." And apparently from researching it, Dr. McCoy actually never did say "damn it." He just said that. But this an often repeated, the phrase originates from a Star Trek episode where James Tiberius Kirk, the captain of the Enterprise, asked Dr. Bones to figure out a mechanical problem. And as we all know as Trekkies, that command should have been, or request, I guess, in that series, should have been given to Scotty. He's the engineer of the Enterprise. But many of us have claimed, "Damn it, I'm a minister, not a referee." And the other callings that we have, and we refuse to budge into them or look at them, we're stuck in our one calling. So that's what that's about. So I'm a blank, not a blank. Maybe reconsider it. I never considered being a Santa. And it morphed, and like I said, I'm going to try. We've been putting a lot of hours into it, and so we'll see how it goes. And it's amazing the different appearances that are available for Santas, from a Santagram to being in a parade to home parties and corporate parties and marriages. There's all kinds of things. And I've really, for me, I've related the Santa Claus to the minister. How many parallels, and people expect you to be there on time and show up with gifts and the kindness and things. So I'm working on being sent to the minister and allowing that to be my calling. And how do we do that? We do it the same way that every Star Trek episode begins. And Karen, if you have a little Star Trek jingle, or dun 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 dun. All right, cool. All right, go on break. It's all good. You're just space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no man has gone before. So, if your success is not on your own terms, it looks good to the world but does not feel good in your heart, it's not success at all, by Ann Quinlan. I think Russell spoke to some of that, and I see it demonstrated in Russell, being your authentic self. So many of us have, maybe partially one of our callings is to please others or live the life that someone else had for us. It needs to be our own gift, our own calling, and you know that when you're in touch with the divine and open your heart. And again, those callings change, but being aware of that. So the first key to living in prosperity is to answer our calling, and again, our calling. And knowing our callings change as we advance in proficiency or as we turn the chapter in our book of life. A new chapter. The second key to prosperity, I think, is what Ernest Holmes, our founder, and the Science of Mind teaching, he calls it a mental equivalent. Some of you are very familiar with it. Maybe you've never heard the term before, but Dr. David Goldberg that spoke here last week touched on it. Mental equivalencies are one of the many Science of Mind principles. It's important for us to know the Science of Mind principles, to know them, but I think it's equally or even more important for us to practice them. Practice them and put them to work for us in our lives. Those principles, there are so many of them, and we don't know of them, but they're still acting. We're still activating them with our consciousness, but when we become aware of them, we can use them more efficiently. So our mental equivalent, I see it as let me go back and say that I'm going to bring up a quote here, and as I share it, it's written on the slide the same way that Ernest Holmes spoke it, and this has been up for me lately that some people hear Ernest's words and see them as gender bias, and people, when he says he or a man should do this and he will recognize this, etc. So I want you to know that I don't want it to sound that way, and I trust that Ernest had no gender bias as he was writing and speaking his teachings. But when using the word man, he was referring to all humans. So I thought I'd just throw that disclaimer out there. And now what I was going to say ahead of time is our mental equivalent is the ability to possess as much of something as we believe we can. It is the limit of our beliefs. The mental equivalent is both. You can expand that equivalent or you can limit it. It's what size of container do you bring? And our prosperity is relevant to our thinking. So a man does not suddenly become affluent because he sits around and thinks, I'm a multimillionaire. But when he thinks affluently, he does begin to demonstrate prosperity. So that's a direct Ernest Holmes prosperity quote, and I pulled it out of the Science of Mind textbook. Some of you own it, some of you may have heard of it. It's a handbook for practitioners and ministers throughout our training, and I suggest that you read it, but for me, I recommend reading it a little bit at a time. Ernest Holmes is so deep, and the way he speaks is like Yoda sometimes, almost backwards. But when you reread it and get a different meaning or the deeper meaning of it. But it's a wonderful textbook to learn the Science of Mind principles and the teachings that Ernest wanted. He never really wanted this to be a church or a religion. It was always set up to be a teaching and a way of life in his mind. And chapter 16 is titled The Principles of Successful Living. And it addresses a lot of what I'm speaking about today. So if you want to go deeper about this message and the month that we've had of prosperity here, the chapter 16, Principles of Successful Living. Science of Mind is not a get-rich-quick scheme, nor does it promise something for nothing. It does, however, promise the one who will comply with its teachings shall be able to bring greater possibilities and happier conditions to their experience. We could all use that now. Happier conditions to all of our experience, and it comes with practice, meditation, all the things that we do. Practitioners are called that because we practice and remind us of those practices. And we all need that, and we're all reminders for each other. I think if we all wanted this, if we all got what we want, it would be rather disastrous, because in certain things we would interfere with the well-being of someone else. So I've heard this phrase, and I think I actually heard it from Petra Wildis many, many years ago. She's a minister down at CSL Dallas. Some of you are familiar with her readings and teachings and that, but see if this statement holds true for you or if it's in your mental equivalent. And I didn't put this up on the slides, but I just want to say it. We can have anything we want. We just cannot have everything we want. So that's an opening to possibility. Anything you want, but not everything. And we all have wonderful blessings in our life. I think some of us recognize them more than others. Those that focus on the good we already have, what we appreciates kind of thing. Our current prosperity and blessings are a direct result of all of our thoughts, beliefs, and our mental equivalents. Those that we've embodied so far. So we can change any of those. And as we change these thoughts and beliefs, we also change our experiences of life. You've probably heard the saying over and over, change your thinking, change your life. But it's all of those things and changing those deep-rooted core beliefs. And they don't need to change completely, just keep exploring as they do on the Enterprise, and expand them. We do not expect to give a treatment today for prosperity and have $1 million tomorrow. And yet it probably would if we truly had the faith of Jesus, I believe. But little by little, we can unfold our consciousness through the acquisition of greater and still greater mental equivalence, until at last we shall be made free. And as I read that from Ernest Holmes, again, our founder, it has a touch of Martin Luther King, the being made free. And so as we think, and so treating for that $1 million, if that's truly a goal of yours, you can have it. And the higher your consciousness, the more expanded your mental equivalent, the easier those things obtain. And again, being grateful for what we do have. So I've presented 2 keys already, and I think the third key to prosperity is practicing the reciprocity. And I didn't put the dictionary definition in, but it's kind of interesting. It's kind of sounds like a barter system, if you will, when I read it. But it's we cannot receive without giving. It's kind of like only breathing in and never breathing out. You need to have both. It's giving, but not taking, or the other way, always taking and not giving. The reciprocity is that cycle. And we know that life is a cycle. The planets are always cycling. The seasons are cycling. And that's what reciprocity is. We must give our gifts without attachment. And Russell was mentioning that today. That's kind of a Buddhist, the lack of attachments. Learn to allow prosperity to show up in its own way and on its own time. Timing is essential. Timing is everything. We need to allow our good to manifest with divine right timing. Sometimes we've not made the space for our new good to show up. So when we give a gift, we create a space for the new good to reside. And David Goldberg last week also mentioned this concept when he was talking about finding a place to live. And he and Rick thought they were going to move to Colorado Springs, or had this and that and these different things going on. And when they just settled in and allowed, divine showed the way, the divine right timing. And I believe the divine intelligence already knows what is good for us. Some of you buy into that or subscribe to that. The divine intelligence already knows our good, and that good is far greater than we could ever imagine alone. So God is in us and as us, and when we cooperate with that, our good shows up. And when we recognize it and appreciate what we have, it expands our mental equivalent and our possessions, and it's not about possessions, it's about prosperity. In our willingness to give that which we seek, we keep the abundance of the universe circulating in our lives. Deepak Chopra. And many are familiar with him. and Oprah. Did you have a question? No. Okay, cool. That's all good. Many are aware of his work with Oprah Winfrey, who I quoted earlier. They were teaming up on some things, and those two personalities were very strong together. Is anybody familiar with their work? And see some heads nodding. Well, I have to share that Oprah really didn't want to marry Deepak. She thought about it, but she didn't want to just because she didn't want to be known as Oprah Chopra.
I knew that was coming.
Sorry. Well, that's what reciprocity is, though. The willingness to give of our individual gifts that are the gifts of life. Our individual gifts that no one else can express the same way that we can. They're yours. Others need to experience the gifts that you alone possess. So my current calling is to be Santa, and I accept this mission. So, the assistance of Mrs. Claus. Oh.
Oh, yay!
And how do we do that? Space, the final frontier. On your life voyage, make it your mission to discover your life's true calling, expand your mental equivalent, practice and demonstrate reciprocity, to explore strange new worlds, seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no one has gone before. Live long and prosper. And that completes my talk. In this, the first time I read it, to boldly go where no man has gone before. And that's how it was in the original TV series, and then they did change it for that, again, the gender bias or inclusion. I am all about that, the diversity, equity, and inclusion. So now, where no one has gone before. So I ask you to live long and prosper. And join me in a closing prayer. Is that mine to do now? Yes. It's ours to do. Relaxing into that place where the core of who you are, whereas only God, by whatever name you choose to give, that infinite intelligence, spirit, the divine power, the universal gift, I like to call it Gus sometimes, G-U-S, the great universal spirit. And just allow that place to be where we show up. It allows us to show up as love, kindness to each other, civility, democracy, a joy of life, and of possibility. And as we enter this autumn season, the time of harvest, where all the gifts are already given. Many times throughout the Bible and the teachings of Jesus, the gifts are ours for the receiving. Ask and it shall be given unto you. Those are also laws of reciprocity and prosperity. And when we accept with open hearts and we give freely of our hearts and of our love, the core of who we are, a place that knows no lack, out of our humanness and into the divineness that each of you are, then we know our true gifts, and they're easy to give, for they replenish and they strengthen us as we receive and as we give. So with grateful hearts, as we prepare to go our separate ways today, we acknowledge there is no such thing as separation. Deeply we are one. We are blessed in togetherness. We are blessed in so many ways. We acknowledge them. We give great thanks. And we affirm this truth together by saying, and so it is. Namaste.
I dreamed of the rain, and the rains came, soft and easy, sweet and clear. I dreamed of rain, and the rains came, clear. I dreamed of rain, and the rains came, and peace spread over this land. I dreamed of summer, and the winds changed, soft and easy, and the rivers ran clear. I dreamed of rain, and the winds changed, and peace spread over this land. And flowers bloomed in the desert, and the earth was soft, and the sky was clear. I dreamed of heaven, and the earth sang. It sang about living your best life, going somewhere no one has ever been before. I dreamed of summer, and heaven and the earth sang. And it's up to you and me to give and receive reciprocity, and let peace be. I dreamed of heaven, and the earth sang, and the earth was easy, and the music was clear. I dreamed of heaven, and the earth sang, and peace spread over the land. And God is always in all of us, wherever we are, right where we will be. Life can change, that's how it's meant to be. Dream your dreams, and let the rains come, and let peace peace